At what point did you start to think about applying to become mayor and the whole process to go through that?
So I kind of like ended up. I say ended up. It was deliberate, but I moved back up north when I was working in London. I sort of packed it all in 2005, end of 2005, early 2006. I packed it all in, and I bought a house up here, and so we had the house in London, the house up here, and then I went back to work in London. I sort of did it with some friends, and I was commuting between the two. My time was sort of split between the two, and then in 2008, stopped doing anything in London. It was too difficult. It was the financial crisis, and so I ended up spending all of my time up here, up north, and sort of, after a few days of not doing very much, you start thinking, well, what do I do next? So I looked at a few things, got involved in a few little bits and bobs, and then I saw that the financial cuts were coming and the impact on communities, and I thought about how a lot of businesses are still making reasonable profit and they've got cash in the bank, and so the idea of the new charities started to get going. So over the next couple of years, I supported one charity in particular, but I watched and learned from doing that, and then launched another charity about a year and a half, 2 years later, which we called it's now called Teesside Charity. It was called the Middlesbrough and Teesside Philanthropic Foundation. That's the one I founded. And the idea was to go to businesses and to get them to give an amount of money every year, minimum of £5,000, and get lots of them to do that, put it onto a pot, and use that money to support community groups, community initiatives, apprenticeships, sports clubs, all of that stuff, to keep vital services going during the cutbacks, and also just lend support to great community groups who had nowhere else to go for funds. And so I ended up doing that, and that got me into contact with a lot of community groups, and it gave me a much bigger insight into what was going on. Previous charity work had given me an insight into deprivation, the impacts of that on human psychology and on community senses of aspiration. But when I got involved in the charity that I set up, I was immersed into these communities and interacting with community groups, and I could see exactly, in my opinion, some of the things that were going wrong and some of the things that might help fix that. And so I became interested in local politics. Why isn't this being done, or why can't that be done? What are the challenges? And my interest then just grew and grew in the end, where I thought, well, I'll do it. I'll get involved. Yeah. Because so it was a gradual thing that happened over time.
But that's still incredible in its own way, because it's both the empathy to actually realize and look at local communities and see the impact that you can make. Because actually, I used to work at a company called Nortec Solutions. So it was Brian and Elaine Bunn who used to donate to the philanthropic. And it was just, I would see the newsletters and the different things that you do. And it's when you can help young sports people buy equipment. And the reason, even when you said before about you're not sure if you'd made an impact, to those people, you don't forget that kind of thing. And the ability to literally plant seeds in the community to help people out with stuff. To you, it's one of many, but to them, it can be a really big deal. And that's why I think it's super kind of cool that you've done it. But likewise, it's the fact that it was a conscious choice to do it. A lot of people wouldn't. They would just sit and look after themselves and that kind of thing. And that's why I think it's really interesting. And then likewise, would you like to tell us about the CEO Sleep Out?
Yes, the CEO Sleep Out. So it's a charity based on an Australian phenomenon. A guy called Bernie Fionn set up an event called CEO Sleep Out, not a charity, but an event where he got executives to sleep outdoors overnight. And Bernie Fionn used to raise the money for a big homelessness charity in Australia, St Vincent de Paul. It's an international organisation. Known over there as Vinnie's. And I'd actually was talking with somebody called Joanna Wake, and we were talking about arranging some kind of sleep out in the Middlesbrough area. This is going back to probably 2012 or something, about creating some kind of sleep app to support a homelessness charity in the area that was struggling financially. We sort of shared a few ideas. And then I heard of this guy in Australia called Bernie Fionn. So I called him, we had a good chat. I said, can I use the name? He said, yeah. So we set up an event called CEO Sleep Out. The first event was 2013 at the Riverside Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been involved in raising money with charities for ages. And it's difficult, actually. It's difficult. And we did this event, and there were 30 people. It was one night, raised £30,000. There was a lot of goodwill. People, they didn't enjoy sleeping out, but they enjoyed the event and the camaraderie and everything like that. And I thought, right, I'm onto something here. So basically then I decided I wanted to form it as a standalone charity, recruited a couple of trustees. I'll name check them. That's Nick Tunley, a lawyer at Endeavour Partnership, and Abu Ali, a corporate finance guy up in Newcastle. I can't remember where he works right now, so I won't mention them. And they became trustees, and we formed the charity. And basically, with their help, I went around the country, Newcastle in the north, further north. We went to Alnwick, in fact, to Alnwick Garden. We had events up there in Northumberland. We've put events on down in Portsmouth, in the south, in the west as far as Cardiff, Wembley Stadium. So these big sleep out events. And it was basically in the early days, it was me running around, literally getting in the car. I didn't have any spare time, but and driving to Cardiff and meeting local people and saying hello and getting them to get involved and back it and help recruit local business people. Did that all over the country. That's gone really well. I think we raised a few million quid, I think. So, something like that. I'll need to check. I'm the chair of trustees now, but I'm not involved in running it. It's now run by somebody called Bianca Robinson, and she runs that full time, does a much better job than I did, because I was just running around, here and there and everywhere. But I was great at getting it going. But once it was up and running, it needed a structure and some processes and some staff. But it's a great charity that supported, I'm going to guess it supported up to 100 groups across the whole country that do a little bit in their communities about anti-poverty, anti-homelessness. So it's a great, great charity. It links business people with who are obviously affluent, and it links them with the concept of abject poverty, destitution, in a great, really healthy way that creates empathy and understanding and a willingness to make change. So it's a great charity that I think has gone well. COVID's been really tough on it because obviously we couldn't host the sleep out events, but they're getting going, and this year's bigger and better than ever. So that's really exciting. So yes, CEO Sleep Out has been a great charity. It is a great charity, and it's growing. So that's fantastic. And it's all been done on a very modest staff wage bill and infrastructure, very modest infrastructure. I like stuff that's simple and doesn't need much infrastructure.
I was going to say, why did you do it?
Why did I do it? Again, I think I saw an opportunity. I thought, right, okay, this could happen. This could happen and do some good, and it's not happening. I'll jump in and get it going. And obviously, probably my intention at the time was that I would get it going, and 3 weeks later, somebody else would take it on. And I did it probably on my own for 3 or 4, I can't remember how many years, 3 or 4 years. And it became a problem. It was very, very difficult, actually, to keep it going. I got great help. I've got a personal PA, Diane, who's always been exceptionally committed and giving up lots of her own time to help keep that charity going too. So yeah, but we did it. It's a good charity. It raises lots of money. It goes direct to great, street-based initiatives, and it operates in across the country.
No, so especially with at the moment you got the cost of living going up, that both the philanthropic and CEO Sleep Out, they're such good and important causes that genuinely will help a lot of people that need it. And it's just, and this is what amazes me, that but you still don't think you've done anything, is the thing that blows my mind. So what I'm going to say is, when we clip this all up and we'll put it out, I think hopefully we'll get messages from people that actually do appreciate what you have done and what you continue to do, because all the way through that you didn't have to do any of this, you chose to. And I think that kind of says a lot.